what are the benefits of mixing in the box compared to working with analog gear? Now, I'm a really good person to answer this because I've gone full circle on this. I've worked with analog, went and embraced digital, come all the way back round, back to analog, then went back to digital again, back around again. We're back to analog. So the reason I'm a good person to answer this is because I'm very much at the moment um, embracing. I love working with analog gear. I love mixing with analog gear, but there are massive benefits. And the reason I'm a good person to answer this is because I understand all the drawbacks and all the things that are horrible about working with analog gear. And I've experienced all of those over a period of time. And there's a reason right now I have this 100% digitally recallable studio. And the reason for that is because it's the closest thing to getting the sound of analog, but with all the convenience of being in the box with plugins. So the main benefit of working in the box is the obvious one. You open a session, the whole session just recalls. You know, that's the main one. However, in this studio, that's exactly what this studio does. All this analog equipment, I can jump from session to session just like I was using plugins, and the sessions would open. Now, the one thing, and people will say no, but I'll tell you it's factually true, and I know this myself, is the difference in sound quality between analog and digital. There is a difference, right? And despite what anyone says, and I know this myself, when I mix with analog gear, my mixes sound incredible. When I mix with plugins, they're not as good. And it doesn't come down to ability. It's fundamentally down to the equipment and the plugins just not being as good as the hardware. But the benefits are there. This is the thing with working in the box, and this was the reason why I went and worked in the box just with the Avid S4 and nothing else in this room. And the reasons was because of the benefits, that the whole instant recall, the cost was minimal. You know, you could literally, I tell you what, you could probably set up an in the box studio in terms of plugins and when you consider like buying EQs, compressors, and all this sort of stuff, under £1,000 for all the plugins you would ever need. You can obviously go and spend thousands upon thousands, and we all have. But really and truly, if you were starting a studio and you knew what plugins you were going to use, I can use probably 20 plugins, and I could buy all of those for under £1,000 easily. If you knew what plugins you wanted to use, you could just use those plugins. So cost-wise, it's incredibly beneficial because it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. I mean, you're talking this studio just on gear that's in here, it's well over 100,000 for all the equipment that's in here. The majority of people don't want to go and spend that, and they can't justify going and spending that. And the only way you can justify spending that sort of money is if you've got a successful business that has a lot of clients. You can justify spending that. But the majority of people just want to, you know, a lot of people are hobbyists, and working in the box is perfect for that sort of process because it's cost effective. It doesn't cost a mad amount of money, and you can, and despite what some people will say, you can get a great sound working in the box. You can, and you will get a good sound if you're just using plugins. And the thing with it is, and here's the beneficial thing is, it is so beneficial to work with plugins. If you take sound out of the equation and you just think about workflow, it's so beneficial. Now, the one thing that I'd highly recommend anyone that's working in the box get is a really good door controller. Like, don't get an Avid S4. They're too expensive, and they're in my opinion they're quite overpriced. Get like a UFA, an Avid dock, an Avid what are they called? The Avid control, whatever it is, the 8 fader one. Get one of those, use that. You can get great control over all of your plugins. You can get great control over the faders. You can feel like, I've got a mate who's got two SSL UF8s, a UC1 and a UF1, and he says to me, I feel like I'm back on an SSL console. And I'm kind of like, well, you're not, but I get it. I understand what you're saying. I do understand how it can feel like you're on that, and that's great. And that's massively beneficial for people working in the boxes, to have this feel of actually sitting on a console, because it is good to feel the music, to feel what you're doing, feel a fader, feel the resistance. Even on a plugin, you can kind of feel the resistance of what you're doing. These pots that are on these door controllers are really good. So yeah, there's massive benefits. So it's cost being a massive one, workflow and work efficiency, that being a massive one. What else do we have? Benefits to being in the box. One thing that's really good in the box is there's certain tools that are great in the box. Tools like Soothe, tools like FabFilter Pro Q4, brilliant tools in the box. I just got a new plugin the other day, Dynassist, and it's like an AI tool that's brilliant on vocals, and it's literally like a vocal rider that's incredible. And these plugins, things like that, they're not available out the box. So it's like, if you're working in the box, one of the benefits is you've got a vast range, and in some ways too much of a range of plugins to choose from, that it can get overwhelming. So if you were working in the box, and my recommendation would be, find a good reverb, find a really good EQ, just buy FabFilter Pro bundle. That will have you covered majority of the stuff, and it's all proper good plugins. I use a lot of the FabFilter Pro stuff. It's brilliant. Just get yourself nice reverbs, EQs, compressors. Just get one. Like a plugin like FabFilter Pro C2, right, does every sort of style of compression you could ever want. You really don't need to go and buy 2 or 3 other compressors. Another one that what you could do is just get yourself like a Plugin Alliance subscription. Get on the subscription, you get all the plugins. There's so many to choose from, and you got every plugin you could ever want. And the thing with it is mixing in the box doesn't cost a lot when it comes to actually the plugins that you need. This sort of core library of plugins. You could even go in the box with stock plugins. Like the stock plugins in Logic are really good. The stock plugins in Pro Tools I'm not massively keen on, but the stock plugins in Logic are actually pretty good. So yeah, there's massive benefits of being in the box. Do I sometimes wish I was still in the box? Not now. Not now. And the reason for that is because all these pieces of gear in here are digitally recallable. So it's the closest thing you could possibly get to being in the box whilst out the box. So I do all my analog summing, digitally recallable analog summing, digitally recallable channel strips, EQs, compressors, mastering chain, everything, every single thing that is outboard in here is digitally recallable. So it's just like a plugin, opens up like a plugin. I can control it like a plugin, use automation like a plugin. The only difference being between the analog and the plugin is that, I can be a little bit more hands-on with it. I can get that, let's say, superior sound from the hardware. But all in all, look, there's massive benefits of being in the box. I do sometimes wish I was still in the box. It's a lot faster. A job that takes me 2 hours to do, if I was doing it in the box, I could probably do it in an hour, kind of thing, because it's a little bit less setup time. Sorting out all your routing before you start mixing the session, for instance. So something that takes me 2 hours might take someone else who's mixing in the box an hour. But here's the thing: is even if that is the case, I think for my clients especially, it's better for me to take more time over the setup, and even if it takes more time, um, to provide a better service. That's my personal opinion. I'm not one of these sorts of people that are like, oh yeah, you know what, um, I'll um, I'll work in the box, knowing full well that I could get a better mix working out the box. But it's, I save time, and time's money and all this. Whereas I'm more of a kind of like, well, it's got to take that amount of time, and we don't sacrifice on the sound, on the end product. I think that's important. That one's important to me. But yeah, there's huge benefits working in a box. I do sometimes wish I was still working in a box, but sound quality wise, I think this sort of setup, especially, this is next level. This is the future in my eyes.